In the 1930s, garden seeds cost nothing. Families saved seeds and replanted the same varieties year after year. That made gardening essentially free. Today, most gardeners pay $50 to $200 annually, and seed packets keep shrinking. The industry calls this progress, but it is actually a trap, because hybrid seeds are designed to keep you buying year after year. Is it possible to eliminate garden costs for good using a Depression-era trick the industry hopes you have forgotten? Here is why recovering this knowledge changes everything. During the Great Depression, a garden was more than a patch of earth. It was a lifeline. Across rural towns and city edges, families turned every available scrap of land into rows of beans, tomatoes, squash, and corn. Store-bought seeds were a luxury few could imagine. Instead, gardeners saved seeds from the strongest plants each season, drying them on windowsills or in paper envelopes tucked into kitchen drawers. The next spring, those same seeds went back into the ground, carrying with them the hope of another harvest. First-hand accounts from the era tell of gardens sprawling 50 by 100 feet, packed with everything from carrots and onions to watermelon and okra. Almost every meal came from what grew out back. A farmer's daughter remembered years later. Almost everything we ate was produced right there on that farm. The only things we bought were flour, sugar, salt, coffee, soda, and baking powder. Seed saving wasn't just a family affair. It was woven into the fabric of the community. Neighbors swapped beans for tomatoes at the hardware store, or traded a handful of lettuce seed for a scoop of okra. A well-kept jar of heirloom seeds might pass through several hands before finding its way back home. Gardeners learned from each other which varieties survived drought, which ripened first, and how to store seeds so they would last through the winter. This knowledge moved quietly from parent to child, from one neighbor to the next. It was never written down, but it shaped every meal and every season. For Depression-era families, saving seeds wasn't a hobby or a trend. It was the difference between going hungry and putting food on the table year after year at no cost but their own care and attention. The modern home gardener faces a bill that would have left Depression-era families shaking their heads. Today, seed packets line the hardware store shelves with bright labels and bold promises, but each one comes with a price tag. The average home vegetable gardener now spends between $50 and $150 every year just on seeds. For those with larger plots or a taste for variety, that number can climb past $200. This is not just about inflation or the rising cost of living. It is about what is actually inside those packets. A packet of tomato seeds that once held over 100 seeds now offers a quarter of that, sometimes just 25 or 30. Bean and pea packets, which used to be measured by the handful, are now measured by the dozen. Peppers, once sold in generous scoops, often contain fewer than 20 seeds. Even lettuce and squash packets, which could once plant a whole row, now barely fill a small corner of the garden. Meanwhile, the price per packet has jumped. A $3 tomato packet today might have cost a dime in your great-grandparents' time, and that dime would have stretched much further. This shrinking seed count is not an accident. It is the result of a system built on repeat customers. Hybrid seeds, which dominate the racks, are bred to perform well for one season, but their offspring are a genetic toss-up. Saving seeds from hybrids means risking unpredictable results, so gardeners are nudged to buy fresh each spring. The seed industry, now a multi-billion-dollar market, depends on this cycle. 4 companies control more than half the world's seeds, and every smaller packet, every price hike, feeds their bottom line. For the modern gardener, this means a quiet but steady drain on the wallet, year after year, just to keep the same vegetables growing. The knowledge that once kept gardens free and abundant has been replaced by a checkout line and a plastic envelope. The question is not just what seeds cost now, but why anyone pays for them at all. Hybrid seeds changed everything for home gardeners. Before their arrival, families could count on saved seeds to produce the same reliable crops every year. But starting in the 1930s, seed companies introduced hybrids, plants bred from two different parent varieties to boost yields, uniformity, or disease resistance. On the surface, these new seeds promised better gardens and bigger harvests. The catch was hidden in the biology. Hybrid plants do not breed true. If you save seeds from a hybrid tomato or corn, the next generation splits apart. Some plants resemble the mother, some the father, and many turn out unpredictable, with odd shapes, poor yields, or weak growth. Seed companies labeled these as F1 hybrids and quietly phased out the old open-pollinated varieties from their catalogs. By the 1950s, hybrids swept across American gardens. Sweet corn led the way in 1933, followed by tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and squash. Within 2 decades, half of all commercial vegetable varieties were hybrids. The promise of uniform rows and disease resistance came with a new dependency. Gardeners now needed to buy fresh seed every spring. Saving hybrid seed became a gamble, and most gave up trying. The knowledge of how to select, dry, and store seeds faded, replaced by glossy packets and annual catalogs. 4 seed companies now control most of the world's supply, and their business depends on gardeners returning year after year. Not all seeds work this way. Heirloom and open-pollinated varieties, often the same types families grew during the Depression, still reproduce true to type. Save seeds from a Brandywine tomato or a Kentucky Wonder Bean, and you will get the same plant next year, season after season. The key is knowing which seeds you can trust. If the packet says hybrid or F1, plan to buy again. If it says heirloom or open-pollinated, you're holding the start of a self-sustaining garden. That single distinction is the reason seed saving disappeared, and the reason it can come back. Every successful seed saver starts with the same foundation: patience and detail. The first rule is to let your plants reach full maturity, far past the point when you would normally harvest them for eating. A tomato left on the vine until it is deep red and soft, a bean pod that rattles when shaken, a squash with a tough, hardened skin. These are the signals that the seeds inside have fully developed. Immature seeds might look fine at first, but they rarely sprout well the next season. That is why Depression-era gardeners always set aside a few of their best plants, letting them go the distance so the seeds could mature completely. Once seeds are collected, drying is the critical step. Seeds need to be bone dry before storage, or hidden moisture will cause mold and ruin the whole batch. The old-timers had a simple test: bend a bean seed or snap a squash seed between your fingers. If it breaks cleanly with a crisp snap, it is ready. If it bends or feels rubbery, it needs more time in a well-ventilated spot away from direct sunlight. Modern seed savers sometimes use a small fan or a mesh screen to speed the process, but the principle is the same. No shortcuts here. For people in humid climates, a packet of silica gel or a spoonful of powdered milk in the storage jar can help pull out the last traces of moisture. Storage makes all the difference between a seed that bursts to life and one that fizzles out. Seeds last longest in a cool, dark, dry place. Think of an old cellar, a kitchen cupboard, or even the back of the fridge. Glass jars with tight lids, paper envelopes, or small tins all work as long as they are sealed against damp air. Every container gets a label, variety, year, and any notes about where or how it was grown. Depression-era gardeners wrote these details on scraps of paper, sometimes passing down envelopes with faded handwriting from one generation to the next. Without clear labels, even the best-kept seeds lose their value. Nobody wants a mystery garden come spring. It is not complicated, but it is precise. Let your plants mature fully, dry the seeds until they snap, store them cool and dry, and label every batch. These habits, passed down quietly through families and neighbors, are what kept gardens thriving when money was tight and every seed counted. With these basics in place, anyone is ready to start saving seeds that will grow true season after season. Tomatoes are a seed saver's best friend. Start with a fully ripe tomato, soft, deep red, almost bursting. Slice it open and scoop out the seeds along with their jelly-like coating. Drop everything into a glass jar, add a bit of water, and let the mixture sit at room temperature for 3 days. During this time, the seeds ferment. Bubbles will rise and a thin layer of mold might form. This is not a problem. It is nature's way of breaking down the gel that keeps seeds from sprouting inside the fruit. After 3 days, pour off the cloudy water, rinse the seeds thoroughly in a fine sieve, and spread them out on a plate or paper towel. Leave them to dry for at least a week. Once the seeds snap between your fingers, they are ready for storage. Beans and peas make seed saving almost effortless. Let the pods hang on the vine until they turn brown and papery. When you shake the plant, you will hear the seeds rattling inside. That is the sign they are fully mature. Pick the pods, shell out the beans, and lay them in a single layer to dry for another week or 2. Old-timers would test a bean by biting it. If it cracked clean, it was dry enough to last through winter. For peppers, patience pays off. Wait until the fruit is fully ripe, bright red, orange, or yellow, depending on the variety, and starting to wrinkle. Cut the pepper open and scrape the seeds onto a plate. Spread them out in a thin layer and let them dry for a week or more. Pepper seeds keep best when they are hard and brittle. If you are working with hot peppers, wear gloves to avoid a lingering burn. Lettuce takes a little more observation. When it bolts, the plant sends up a tall stalk and produces clusters of tiny flowers. As these dry, they turn into tufts of white fluff, like miniature dandelions. Gently rub the flower heads over a bowl or bag to collect the seeds. Then separate them from the chaff. Lay the seeds out to finish drying before storage. Squash seeds are hidden treasure. Let the fruit ripen past its eating stage, skin tough and color deep. Cut it open, scoop out the seeds, and wash away any stringy pulp. Spread the seeds out to dry in a single layer for at least a week. When they snap in half, they are ready to store. Each squash can yield hundreds of seeds, enough for years of planting or sharing. These 5 crops offer quick, reliable wins for any gardener. With a handful of simple steps, fermenting, drying, scraping, or shaking, one harvest becomes the next season's abundance. The same methods that carried families through the hardest years can still fill a garden year after year with no trips to the seed aisle. Moving beyond the basics, seed saving becomes a careful practice of timing, observation, and patience. Cucumbers, for instance, must be left on the vine well past their eating stage. The fruit swells, turns yellow, and softens, signs that the seeds inside have matured. Harvesting too early means empty husks. Once picked, the seeds are still wrapped in a slick coating that prevents sprouting. Fermentation is the key. Seeds and pulp are scooped into a jar with water and left for 2 to 4 days. Bubbles and a sour scent signal the process is working. Stirring daily helps separate viable seeds from the rest. Only those that sink are kept, rinsed, and dried for storage. Corn brings its own set of complications. Wind carries pollen for miles, and a single gust can mix varieties. Isolation is necessary, at least a quarter mile from other corn, or by hand pollinating. Some gardeners bag tassels and silks, collect pollen, and dust each ear by hand. The extra effort guards against unwanted crosses and preserves the line. When the ears dry on the stalk and kernels harden, they are twisted off, shelled, and dried further before being tucked away. Biennial crops, carrots, beets, and most brassicas require a 2-year commitment. These plants store energy in roots or heads their first season, then flower and set seed the next. In autumn, the best roots or cabbages are dug up and stored in cool, humid conditions, in a root cellar or in damp sand. Come spring, they are replanted to finish their cycle. Skipping this overwintering step means no seed at all. A single carrot can yield thousands of seeds, but only if it survives the winter. Mistakes come easily. Cucumbers left too long may rot, corn can cross in a single afternoon, and biennials perish if storage is too dry or too cold. Yet each setback teaches, and each success strengthens the seed library, echoing the resilience of families who once relied on these crops through lean years. A single tomato grown from an open-pollinated or heirloom variety holds anywhere from 100 to 300 seeds. That is enough to plant an entire neighborhood or keep a family garden going for a decade. One pepper, fully ripened and dried, yields 50 to 150 seeds, each one capable of becoming another fruit-bearing plant. Even a single bean pod, left to dry on the vine, can supply all the beans needed for next year's row. Multiply this by just 3 to 5 different crops, and a modest garden can produce thousands of viable seeds in one growing season. Seed viability stretches farther than most realize. When stored cool, dry, and dark, tomato seeds can sprout for up to 7 years. Beans and squash often last 3 to 5 years. Some seeds, like lettuce or peppers, keep their strength for 2 to 4 years. This means that one careful season of saving can erase the need to buy seeds for years to come. The math is simple. A family that starts with a handful of open-pollinated varieties can build a seed bank strong enough to outlast crop failures, bad weather, or even a missed growing season. But the real power of a personal seed library is its flexibility. By saving more seeds than you need, you create a kind of currency, something to share, trade, or gift to friends and neighbors. Depression-era families relied on this abundance, swapping seeds for tools, advice, or even a few eggs. Today, the same principle applies. A gardener with extra seeds holds the key to community resilience and independence. Each envelope of saved seeds is a small act of liberation from rising prices and shrinking packets. The cycle repeats every season. Grow, save, share, and plant again without ever returning to the seed aisle. This is how real economic freedom takes root, one saved seed at a time. Every year, gardeners spend hundreds on seeds, while a single tomato can yield hundreds for free. As economic uncertainty grows and seed prices keep rising, the power to grow your own food and your own future rests in your hands, not the industry's. True self-sufficiency starts with a handful of seeds, not a checkout line. What will you plant next season?